So this is just a simple cucumber salad I've been making for years. No sour cream or mayonnaise involved. This is nice, light tasting and refreshing. You can make it year round. So 2 tablespoons of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of sunflower oil, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, half a teaspoon of sugar, 2 English cucumbers, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of celery salt. You can use celery seed. 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. You can use white pepper as well. Use different styles of cucumbers, and in the summertime, fresh out of the garden is best. So they don't have to be English cucumbers, but they're generally available year-round and are almost seedless, so the water content is quite low in them. Okay, so the first step, we're going to have just the cucumbers and salt. We're going to do the process of draining all the water out of them. So we're going to peel them first. Again, English are generally a little bit lower in water content, and they have very small seeds. So if people don't like larger seeds that you would find in like field cucumbers or different shorter cucumbers, this is a good choice. Okay, so we're going to peel those. Some people will leave some of the peel on or leave the peel on completely, but it does have a slight bitter taste to it. I prefer it without the peel. And these are 2 medium-sized English cucumbers. Doesn't really matter what size they are. This serves about 4 to 6 people, a small side dish of it. Okay, so there's different ways of slicing. Some people will use a mandolin, which is, you can get nice thin slices. If I have the time, I do that. Sometimes I don't bother getting it out, but this time I'm just doing it by hand. Roughly 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch is fine for a general salad, but if you want it really thin, then yes, I would use a mandolin. But this works fine. Now, you'll see recipes for Pennsylvania Dutch cucumber salad, which is usually sour cream and dill based. And growing up, I kind of liked both. I liked having the sour cream or mayonnaise based as well as this clear one. But this is the one I make all the time, and I do like the flavors. It's very easy to make. Okay, so once you have that all sliced up, we're going to put that in a bowl. And it has to sit for an hour with the salt to drain the water out. So I would recommend a glass bowl or not a metal bowl. So you just want to give that a quick stir to kind of separate at least some of the cucumbers. And again, I'm using fine sea salt here. Generally you want to use a table salt or a fine sea salt, something that can really stick to the cucumber and draw that water out. If you use a coarse, like kosher salt, it doesn't do as good of a job to draw that water out in a fairly short amount of time. Okay, so get in there with your hands. My hands are always completely clean, so don't worry about that. I just rub them together, get that salt coating everything. Now you'd think this be salty, but it's not. It's actually doing its job of getting all the water out, and then I pour that juice off after an hour. So there's some residual salt, and we're not going to add salt later on. So you'll see it doesn't end up being salty. That's just to get the water content out. And by doing this step, you're going to end up with a nicer texture, a crunchier salad. Now the longer you let it sit, the more water is drawn out, so it's a little bit better to let it sit longer if you can, but I find an hour is kind of the happy medium. So we're just going to cover that with the lid. You can use a towel as well. And just let it sit for an hour. Let the salt do its work. You could put it in the fridge, but just sitting it on the counter is fine too, as long as your room is not overly hot. Okay, and you'll see this is after 1 hour. And what I do, I just use the lid to hold back the slices and pour off the fluid. So you'll see there's quite a bit of water just after 1 hour. You could let it sit longer if you want. I just found an hour is enough to get most of the water out. And along with that, a lot of the salt content. So it leaves you with just enough salt to have a nice flavor. And don't forget we're adding a little bit of celery salt as well. So you don't want to add extra salt on top of this. Okay, so we're going to add our white vinegar, so distilled white vinegar, And I chose sunflower oil. I used to use olive oil, but anything that's fairly neutral in taste is fine. We're going to add our celery salt, our garlic powder, and our sugar, and some black pepper. Again, you could use white pepper as well. Black pepper has a little bit of a stronger flavor, so white pepper is kind of not as flavor forward, I would say. Okay, so let's just give that a good stir. And we're going to let it sit in the fridge for, well, yeah, the longer the better, but it doesn't have to sit too long. There's a lot of absorption that happens fairly quickly. That's another reason we got rid of some of that water, so it can draw the fluids back in, so the oil and the vinegar and the spices. Okay, so we're just going to put that into a smaller bowl. Just give it one last stir and we'll cover it up. Again, this kind of serves 4 to 6 people as a side dish with dinner or lunch. I'm going to place that in the fridge. And again, the longer the better. You could add dill if you want to, but generally these are the spices I use every time, and it always turns out nice. So this is after a few hours in the fridge. Now if you want it a little bit tangier, you could add another tablespoon or so of the white vinegar. You could even use apple cider vinegar if you want, but this is kind of my go-to recipe and it always turns out great, so I encourage you to give that a try. And again, if you want the slices thinner, you could use a mandolin or just take your time and slice them even really thin, almost paper thin. So I encourage you to give that a shot, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Please subscribe, and bye for now.